So, greetings everyone in History of American Agriculture. It's Philip here one more time, one last time actually, here with the History of American Agriculture course, and just responding to you in general as we wrap up the course. And I want to say first what a delight it's been to get to know all of you, even by this unusual online environment. But it's always a little bit of a downer, in some ways when we hit this point in the course, because I feel like I've just gotten to know you and start to actually feel like that relationship is building, and then it's gone. But hopefully we'll see you at the residency and we can make some connections then and later on as well. So I thought it'd be a good way to wrap up here, perhaps by doing what Marty and I ask you to do, and that is to share what you've learned in this course. And albeit unexpected as I stepped in here, I thought I'd share a few of the things that I picked up in the course. And usually what is particularly interesting for me is that usually when I approach the history of agriculture, typically I'm coming at it from the perspectives or the lenses of farming, of ecology, of technology, and also of culture. So in this particular case, this enhanced focus on policy was really, really good for me in expanding my own horizons and understandings. And so I appreciate that opportunity. It is a healthy reminder for me that it doesn't all just happen on the farm or by way of the farm, or even in the local economies, but also within the halls of Congress and elsewhere. So it's also a reminder, the way that Marty structured the course, it's a reminder for me, and I hope for you, that history is not just chronological, it's often also thematic, and that's very important to remember, and he structured the course accordingly. And that sort of brings us to this question that a lot of us really zeroed in on, myself as well as you, and that is sort of how we might interpret things from the progressive tradition, as Marty laid it out, a different form, different definition than we're accustomed to in most of our conversations in public, but the progressive approach and the agrarian approach. And, frankly, part of what I thought about, and obviously you did too there, was whether perhaps I should be frustrated by the fact that those two ends of the spectrum, as if there is such a thing, that those two ends of the spectrum really are so polarized, or whether to celebrate the fact that we need both, and that there is this dialectical tension that I've mentioned a couple of times that probably gets us closer to where we need to be in the end, but there is that tug and pull, and sometimes we go too far one way or the other. And I also think that the dialogue that's kind of out there among the sustainable food, I guess we'll say community, at least the sustainable food, sustainable ag forums, that it's often not all that rich and all that deep, or in some cases, it's not even all that well informed. And so really it's been a privilege for all of us to be able to have the time to dig in deeper. That's a luxury that not everyone has. And so perhaps as you weigh into these different conversations that you see bouncing out there, different conversations on food by way of TEDx talks, by way of conferences, perhaps you can help expand the conversation and make it richer and make it deeper, and make sure that all of us are doing a good job. We feel like our heart's in the right place, and even that our heads are, but sometimes we haven't done all the research that we probably should do. Also in the course, as anytime I look at history, I can't help but think about Howard Zinn and his approach of who is left out in the history books. And I think you've done a good job at unraveling that in your last conversations. And we embedded that extra question about women in the history of American agriculture, and some of you rightly pointed out that, take that even a step further. For example, black women or women of other minority groups, where are they? The farm workers, where is their history? Where is their conversation? Where are their voices, I suppose, is what we're ultimately asking. The workers in the processing sector, and perhaps with the course, the history of American agriculture, maybe, we should be thinking about it more expansively, really the history of the American food system, so that we don't lose those other pieces, those other people who are in the middle, behind closed doors very often, behind chain link fences, and all the realities that they're facing and have been facing. So, it's always helpful, I think, to try to make sure that we're not missing the entire picture. We can never paint it completely, but at the same time, we don't want to leave out important characters, and history is a constant act of revision and finding fault with what's been done previously so that we can hopefully get better perspective as we look forward. And then I think also, for me, there was a reminder both of the power and also the inefficacy of the federal government in dealing with food and agriculture issues. There is a power there. What would happen if we didn't in fact use the federal government to try to ensure that the path is the best path in terms of food and agriculture. But on the other hand, we see how things get tripped up, and not just by virtue of the government, but really it's human behavior very often that creates so many of the issues, and even good intentions sometimes, as well as selfish interest. So as I said at one point, in another talk, I think maybe there's a lesson there once again that if we start with the grassroots, then we can work our way all the way back down to the federal government. And maybe that's our way out of some of this. You'll have to decide that for yourselves. As we were going through the course, I really did like seeing the light switches turn on for you. Even more rewarding was seeing some of you who had stated clearly at the beginning that you weren't interested in the history of American agriculture. Really not only warm up to it, but cozy up to it, and also start to find your way into looking at and writing some of that history yourselves. So, I guess the other thing all of us seem to be kind of coming to is, just we have to shake our heads at our willingness to repeat or even exacerbate our mistakes. Our capacity to do that just seems fairly shocking. I hope future generations don't have to say that. We'll see, but that's hope. And, it's a reminder, too, that the work really is one of just constant vigilance. It's never going to be done. We just have to do the best job we can and deal with the issues that we have in front of us. And, finally, all of you have worked really hard. You know that. I've seen that. It's been really wonderful to get the insights that you put forward. And you have worked hard, but I hope you'll remember what a privilege it is to learn these things. And, I know you're investing yourselves in the program, and that privilege doesn't come cheap. But at the same time, it is a privilege. It is a luxury. And so I hope that you can find ways to disseminate the things that you've learned, not just in academic circles, although that's important, but also via the mainstream press and even non-traditional means. And there are all kinds of ways you can do that now. This capacity that we have to do things in terms of digital storytelling and the narratives and the leveling of the world in some ways by way of the internet. You've got a voice. Many of the voices that we have here, you're all articulate in some form or fashion. I know some of you are more comfortable in writing, some in speaking, some in dialogue, even just with neighbors perhaps. But you've all got important voices, and you've got important stories. You've got a better sense of history. And I hope that you will seek out ways to share that. And not only to share it, but also to collect it. Because what's happening now is momentous. We may not know exactly what it looks like in the long run, but it's something also that needs to be captured, saved, archived, and hopefully gone through later as people were trying to figure out what in the heck we were doing and what we were thinking, and hopefully how much progress we made in the process. All right, it's been a wonderful course. Thanks so much. Thanks to Marty for setting the stage so nicely for us. So take care. Bye-bye.